Do14 is on the posterior midline, below the spinous process of C7 in a depression. Bladder 11 is 1.5 cm lateral to the posterior midline, below the spinous process of T1. Going to find the inferior border of T1 and come directly lateral to it on the height of the paraspinal muscle. Rim 15 is 7 cm superior to the centre of the umbilicus on the midline.
Do16 is located on the posterior midline at the base of the occiput. To find the base of the occiput, palpate down to about 1 cm superior to the posterior hairline. If you rock the head backwards and forwards very gently, you should be able to feel the cleft between the base of the occiput and the spine. Make sure you mark this point directly on the posterior midline. Do20 is located in relation to the midpoint between the glabella and the occiput. Place the heel of your palm on the glabella and the occiput. Fold your fingers around the skull to find the midpoint. Do20 is located 1 cm posterior to that midpoint. It typically lies in a nice dip. There are several other nice dips slightly further back, which are other do points, so don't be tempted to go further back than 1 cm posterior to that midpoint. Do23 is located on the anterior midline, 1 cm posterior to the anterior hairline. We take the distance between the centre of the glabella and the anterior hairline as being 3 cm, so divide this into 3 to get your 1 cm to move back to locate Do23. Do26 is on the anterior midline at the junction of the upper third and lower 2/3 of the philtrum. To locate stomach 6, palpate the posterior and inferior border of the mandible to find the angle of the mandible where the jaw is changing direction. Come 1 finger breadth superior and anterior to the angle of the mandible. When the person clenches their jaw, the masseter muscle comes up. When they relax, your finger will fall into the nice dip that is stomach 6.
Large intestine 4, you're going to find the length of the second metacarpal bone. So running your finger down, finding the base, making sure that you're not actually on the carpal bones themselves, finding the midpoint of that shaft of bone, coming between the first and second metacarpals, nearer to the second than the first in the muscle. Large intestine 5 in the anatomical snuff box. Going to ask Laurie to extend his thumb under resistance, and that brings the snuff box into relief. and just relax. I'm going to articulate the wrist to find the deepest part of the hollow now it's relaxed. And I'm going to put my point in, which is in between the two tendons of extensor pollicis longus and brevis.
Large intestine 11 is located at the midpoint between lung 5 and the prominence of the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. Typically, this is at the end of the transverse cubital crease when the arm is fully flexed. Lung 7 is located 1.5 cm proximal to lung 9. It's located just a little lateral to the main line running from lung 9 to lung 5, in a cleft between the tendons of abductor pollicis longus and brachioradialis. It's located just at the base of the flare of the styloid process of the radius. In this position, the point is just about visible on the corner of the arm. If you locate the point too radial, it's falling onto the yang surface of the arm.
Lung 11, it's at the radial nail point of the thumb. So in order to find that point, I'm going to look at where the proximal and radial borders of the nail meet. I'm going to look at the nail bed, feel for where the flare of the bone is, and put my point in. Heart 7, which is at the flexor aspect of the wrist joint, at the proximal border of the pisiform bone, the radial to this flexor carpal ulnaris tendon. In order to bring this tendon into relief, if you get the patient to put their thumb and their little finger together, that will bring that tendon up. And just relax. Articulate the wrist and pop your point in. Pericardium 7 is on the flexor aspect of the wrist. It's level with heart 7 and between two tendons, palmaris longus and flexor carpal radialis. Some people don't have this palmaris longus tendon, in which case you'd just be going ulnar to this flexor carpal radialis. So finding heart 7, articulate the wrist, coming between those two tendons, that if you can't see them, you can get the person to join their thumb and their little finger together, and that will highlight those two tendons. And just relax again.
Pericardium 8 is found on the palmar aspect of the hand in this nice dip, which is proximal to the junction of the heads of the second and third metacarpals. The point is just a little closer to the head of the third metacarpal. Spleen 1 is the medial nail point of the big toe. Be sure to locate this point off of the nail bed. Try and tuck it in to the flare of the base of the distal phalange.